Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms, and I am joined here as always with Jake Circus of the Jake Circus podcast. And this is the Bengals Schedule Release Jungle Talk episode. Yeah, who day. All right. So literally it's 5:27 and it just hit ESPN. Um Jake had it a little earlier. I think would you say it was on the end of one of their videos or something? They
Yeah, the Bengals social team, I guess this time of year, it's always when it's like the social media team Super Bowl. So they all compete against each other to see the most clever ways to release the schedule. Bengals did a pretty cool job. I'm probably pretty sure that their social media team is about the same size as their scouting team. So
yeah.
not much resources, or there's
Yeah.
not that much resources to work with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they tweeted this video, and then the picture of the full schedule was at the end of it.
There you go. So I'm looking at it on ESPN. But before I forget, if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask. Hit the bell so you get the alerts. So when we put videos up, whenever there's breaking news or anything, we put them up and we do previews during the season, recaps right after. So please subscribe and please give us the thumbs up. It helps us out in the AI algorithm with YouTube. So always hit the thumbs up. And Jake, tell them where they can find all your stuff.
It's Jake Circus Podcast on Spotify and YouTube. That'll be getting back going towards the summer when we start college football and NFL. Very excited, obviously. Twitter at Jake Circus, Sirkus, funky last name. That's where all my Bengal stuff will be, all my NFL gambling, all that fun content as well.
Right. You can find them. I always pin the latest episode of Jungle Talk to my Twitter feed. So and Jake is always tagged because he does all the previews with me. So and stuff like this. So you can always find him going back to any of those. And let's just get right into it. So we open in Cleveland. I like that we open up on the road. I like getting a road game out of the way, you know. So I like that we open up on the road. And just before we even get started, guys, we are a premier team now. So the 10 a.m. starts are probably few and far between. We're going to have a lot of afternoons when the NFL only has 2 or 3 games going or 4 games tops in the afternoons. They like to have marquee games in that slot. So because 1 o'clock start here's a 4 o'clock start East Coast, and it goes into prime time, and they get more ad revenue. So in addition to what do we have? Four, I think, prime games. We've got
Yep.
Thursday night, we have a Ravens game. We have a week 3 Rams Monday night game. And then we play, it looks like the Bills on Sunday night. And then we have the another Sunday night game. We've got a Thursday night game against Baltimore and then a Sunday night game at Jacksonville.
The
So,
Jacksonville's
or
Monday.
actually, that's a Monday night game, the Jacksonville. And then obviously we have the afternoon game on New Year's with the New Year's Eve with the Chiefs. So I already know what I'm doing New Year's Eve. But the schedule actually looks a week 7 buys, not a bad week. It's a little earlier than we would like, but it's only a few weeks. At least we're not one of the first bye weeks. But what jumps out to you right away on the schedule when you're looking at it?
Um, Towards around Halloween, when they get the bye. So like they host Seattle, and we were talking about it before the show, Mark, about before the schedule was released, we knew that the Bengals had the least amount of traveling mileage. It's actually, now that the schedule has been released, it's actually less than what we originally thought, because they have a home game before their bye week. So they actually have less traveling than what we thought, and it's not that much at all because they play Seattle, then go into the bye. And then it gets, it picks up. They go to San Fran, which I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's going to be a 4:30 Eastern start. Um, that we might see the Bengals on Fox in the afternoon, which we haven't seen the Bengals on Fox in the afternoon. I couldn't even tell you, but Fox might have that game. That should be flex in the afternoon, and then Sunday night against our favorite Buffalo Bills definitely jumps out to me, because you have the Rams, Titans, Cardinals, Seahawks. That's not a crazy soft spot, but those are 4 teams that the Bengals should be able to beat. And then you go
Right.
into the bye before you get the Niners and the Bills. So I do like that the Bengals have a little bit more so the soft spot of the schedule in like early October. And then when they get towards Halloween and the late fall and the weather starts to get cold, they have the bye week. And then probably the two hardest games on their schedule, other than KC.
Right. And you know what? There's a game thrown in, and I don't take anything for granted, but it's nice that after coming off of San Francisco Buffalo, we would get Houston at home. You know, that's like I
Well,
said, it's, and I'm
yeah,
not
I mean that pocket of games after October, the Niners, the Bills, then you get the Texans game, which is going to act as a tune-up for the
right,
short week road game against Baltimore in week 11, and then you get Pittsburgh again. So back to back, so twice on two different occasions, one at the very beginning of the season, and then one, I believe that's going to be mid-November, right around Thanksgiving. You have back-to-back division games,
right.
which isn't
I
great, but it's not crazy ideal.
Yeah, no, but it's like I said, at least it's kind of balanced. So, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Indy, Minnesota, there's nothing all clustered together.
Yeah, back to back home games just once. I think we had back to back home games maybe 3 or 4 times last year. It wasn't
right.
really as balanced, unless I'm mistaken. Sorry, we have back to back home games 3 separate times this year. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's definitely pretty balanced. We didn't get screwed like the Giants, where they have to go on the road 7 times in the first 9 weeks,
Oh yeah. No,
which is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
well, they do the best. I got to give the NFL credit. They're juggling not only team schedules and everything, but they're juggling the venues have commitments to schedule. So they have to work around. If Taylor Swift is playing, they say, okay, we don't have the venue on this night, so they have to look at things like that. When they're making it. So, they do the best they can. We have back-to-back road games, it looks like twice. We go Tennessee, Arizona. That's not
Yeah,
a
that's
backbreaker.
another great part.
But
Because
you
well,
have Pittsburgh. Yeah, go ahead.
this year the Bengals do have that extra home game. They have 9 home games and 8 road games this year. Last year it was flipped.
Right. So, well, that's when you have an odd number of games. That's what you're going to get. And we don't go overseas, which I do like. I mean, I know they're playing in Germany now, and we've got, I don't know if there's 5 total games. I don't remember. Those came out earlier, but we're not part of it. And I hate losing a home game and it being in Frankfurt. Oh, you're the home game, but you got the home team being in Frankfurt. That's a road game. I don't
I mean
care.
that when that happened to us, against the Rams when we played in London. I think that game was supposed to be in Cincinnati. Maybe it was supposed to be in LA. I don't remember. But either way, we got screwed out of the game. Someone
Well,
gets screwed out of a home game every time.
it was either right behind me. It was either we played Washington.
Oh, and we played Washington. That's what it was.
Washington, yeah, Washington. And what was the other team we played in London? Because we played twice.
The Rams. We played the
Yeah,
Rams
the
in
Rams.
London
That
in
was it. Yeah.
2019.
Oh, that's right. Because I wanted a friend of mine to bring me a flag to go with the Redskin one, and he failed. He's a really nice guy, but that's a fail. He came back from London. I didn't see any flags. I was like, come on, dude. I could have had another flag right there. So that's from the
And
Washington.
there is one more thing that I've seen a little bit it's only the schedule's only been out 20 minutes,
Yeah.
35 minutes, whatever it is. We do not have 5 primetime games. That is the maximum. That is because I know it might sound obvious, but they normally save some games at the end of the year for teams that they want to flex into a game to make the game more important, or to make the important games on
Right.
prime time. So that's why we only have 4. Is I would guess, obviously not KC, but one of Vikings at Pittsburgh, home against Cleveland, 3 of the last 4 weeks of the season. The NFL is looking at that. Okay, that could be a game where we can flex, especially if Cleveland's really good and both teams are fighting for playoff aspirations. Maybe the Bengals are looking to lock up the division. Cleveland's looking to lock up the playoff spot. Maybe even the Vikings. They're not a team that I don't think are going to be very good. I think that's a great matchup later in the year against a team that doesn't have a crazy amount of depth. But either way, they're going to be, they're in a bad division, so that might have playoff implications for them as well. And we're looking at games that are potentially going to be flexed to give the Bengals the maximum of 5, which last year they only had 4, and it was the same thing. It never ended up happening. Now that's because the NFL secretly was going to put us on Sunday night against the Ravens in Week 18. Lamar said, "I don't really want to play," and then that's in its history. So the Bengals didn't get that game flexed because they were going to win. They were a 10-point favorite. I mean, that's not going to get flexed.
Well, and the teams were
night,
matching up again. If we win, we play the Ravens again. So both of them were going to treat that like a preseason game in terms of showing your scheme. You weren't going to put your number one scheme out there. So
it was also winning in for the Lions Packers, which had all the stakes, but it ended up being Aaron Rodgers' last home game. So that was the game that got flexed week 18.
And it turned out to be a game from a gambler standpoint. We talk gambling a lot on this show. From a gambling standpoint, that turned out everybody on the planet, including myself, was finishing up big parlays on the Packers, and they failed us. They failed us. Kudos to Goff.
We don't need to talk about that game.
Yeah. So, but that's why I remember that game vividly. I thought, okay, I'm going to get whole. Aaron Rodgers is going to do his thing, and then he didn't. So, kind of a fitting final game for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. So, well, we're going to see. We don't have the Jets on the schedule this year.
No Jets.
No Jets, but we will see. I think the Jets play. Aren't they the first Monday nighter?
The Jets are actually +1 at home against Buffalo, which I think is pretty insane. And I rarely say that when looking at the NFL lines, but I think that the Bills are actually getting disrespected in terms of the market. I think the Jets are getting a little bit too much respect. I saw a comparison about, this is going to be last year's Broncos where they acquire a marquee quarterback and we're going to get sick of them losing on prime time by November. I think the Jets are going to be a lot better than what Denver was last year. I actually think the Jets are going to be pretty good. But in terms of week 1, new quarterback, some new players, I think that Buffalo has the edge there. So that's interesting. But yeah, Monday night got a lot of great games. I think Monday night got, because they have to, because they have Buck now and they're paying him $1 bajillion.
Right.
But yeah, the ESPN for sure made out very well, as they did last year. A lot of the good games were Monday night last year. We were like on a roll last year with Monday night games. I think the Bengals Browns was the one that fucked it up. That was like the only bad Monday night game.
Yeah, no, that was, believe me, that was tough to watch. So just like you're trying to forget the Aaron Rodgers week 18 costing us all money, I'm still trying to put Cleveland out of my head. 2 straight years in Cleveland and we underperform, but I expect differently this year. We're getting that game out of the way week 1. So one of the things you talked about being on Fox, what's interesting this year is there's no commitment. Typically, historically, we had Fox cover the NFC, CBS cover the AFC, and that's no more. So and Fox was very, I'm sure excited about this new rule, this new arrangement, because all the exciting teams are in the AFC. So their lock on the NFC, which is far less competitive and is far fewer exciting marquee quarterbacks in it. They were happy that they're going to get their share of AFC games. Otherwise, they would have only gotten us, when we played, when we were the visiting or the home team to an NFC opponent. Historically, when the Lions came to town, that would be a Fox game because it's the road team's network that gets to cover the game. So, but now that's for Fox. That's a huge thing. Huge thing.
That conversation is always interesting. Because I think even though that rule has changed, because it's changed in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Remember, Dallas hosted San Francisco. That game was on CBS.
Right.
So we've seen CBS get these NFC games. Fox doesn't really ever get AFC games. CBS kind of always makes that really well with this. It's the Nance effect, obviously. But I'm interested to see if Fox can kind of put their dip their nose in there and get some good games.
Well, one of the reasons also is when we're in October and the Fox is covering baseball, if there's a World Series game that night, their resources are spent somewhere else. So a lot of times they would kick a game over to CBS because they can't cover it. They need the network to
normally World Series. They try to keep World Series away from Sundays, but when they do, it's at night. So the Fox gets, America's game of the week. Also, the reason why Fox doesn't really ever get good games is because they're always getting the Cowboys, which is another reason, and that's a sacrifice, biggest market. So Fox gets that. CBS gets the great games. Fox gets the Cowboys. It's a mix and match. So, it's a wash.
I want to circle back to something you said about you thought that the Jets weren't going to be this year's Broncos, and I'm going to throw out a variable. Just kind of food for thought, because I think the reason why the Broncos sucked so much last year, and once again, I remember this vividly because no coach cost me more money than Nathaniel Hackett last year. That man snatched defeat from the jaws of victory more times. He underachieved with the best roster, and Nathaniel. So he's the reason. He's a huge reason why the Broncos were such a disappointment. And Nathaniel Hackett is now on the Jets coaching staff. So that variable is still in play. Now I know he's not the head coach, but maybe his karma just being there could do that. Because yeah, as you can tell, I'm no Nathaniel Hackett fan. Trying to lay up cards, Denver, Seattle, week 1, and he got. Remember I'm going to play for a 60-yard field goal attempt. He didn't let Russell Wilson throw it on 4th down. It was or 3rd down. I was like, okay, cost us all money. So so the Nathaniel Hackett variable still in play with the Jets. I'm not being a Jet hater,
Bro,
but you did hire the guy,
right.
so you get his baggage.
Baggage comes as a head coach. He was a really bad head coach, but the guy can call offensive plays.
Like I said,
he's their OC. I mean, he's not calling the shots.
They hired him because they knew they were going to do the Rodgers deal. And Rodgers talked him up before the trade was even done. So the Jets were basically saying, hey, we have your guy here, when you get here. So that was the whole reason of picking up Nathaniel Hackett. And he talked him up when he got fired about, oh, he's a great coach. And just whatever happened. And but not a Nathaniel Hackett fan. Never will be. I don't forget people who cost me lots of money. So that's my feeling there. But overall, I'm happy with the schedule overall. It's not too. First of all, this team I used to. If you go back and you watch this show or you watch the Northerners going back, I always said I'm happy with all the 10 a.m. starts. I like to fly under the radar, all that stuff. And now, but that was with Andy Dalton, right? When we couldn't win under we seemed to just melt in prime time. And but that this is not that team anymore. So I don't fear the prime time game. So I really like the way the schedule kind of played out. We get the Ravens. If we could start out 2-0 and beat the Ravens and the Browns and be 2-0 in the division, that would be a great start to the season. That would, to me, that I would just, I'm surprised also. The only other surprise I have, I'm surprised we usually end the year with Baltimore. We've got it. Last year we bookended, this year it's Cleveland. We're bookended with them. So
we weren't bookended with Baltimore last year, but
we had them in week 18 and we started the year 18. Before with them. So we usually have one of the two of them opening day. And we've had the Steelers opening day, obviously, this last year. That was the we miss our long snapper game. But never have you ever appreciated the long snapper more than when we couldn't hit an extra point because the timing was off on the kick. So
that was a crazy. And if the Bengals had won that game, we would have even been more mad at the NFL because then they would have screwed us out of the 1 seed instead of just the 2 seed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They made that horrible. They made that malice of a decision with the whole. That though. But no, like I agree with you. Like I think that there's certain pockets of the year that we can really circle to and say, well, I'm excited for that. Again, you mentioned it at the start of the year that this is a really premier team, so we're going to get a lot of national love, of course. But we're a premier team that people want to watch. Like we're not the 2014 like some of those Cowboys teams that weren't really good. They maybe made the playoffs, but the Giants,
they weren't fun to
Washington.
Yeah,
nobody wants to watch those, and it's just the national network shoving them down our throats because they make a lot of money, or they can make a lot of money, and there are people who watch them, but everyone else doesn't. Everyone wants to watch the Bengals, so they are a premier team that people want to watch. So they're gonna get that attention. They're gonna get 5 primetime games. I'm not promising anything, but they're gonna get.
No, they're gonna flex one of our games. In the last 4 weeks, we're gonna get flexed.
We were not one of the teams that has to play 2 Thursday games, which is awesome. Yes. Because that's a new thing now, because not everybody is going to get a Thursday night game, which now means that teams are going to have to play 2, which is really fucked up, because how are you going to reward a team being good playing multiple short weeks and only giving them 1 bye? It's horrible. Anyway, the Bengals were not one of those teams. They don't have a short week until later in the year against Baltimore, and they're coming off the game against Houston. So I definitely like that. And I like that the bye comes right before San Fran and Buffalo. Those are the 2 things that I look to and say, okay, I love it. Because you look at the schedule, it says week 11 at Baltimore TNF for Thursday Night Football. You're like, shit, I don't really like playing Baltimore in prime time. It doesn't really go well. But you have a tune-up game with Baltimore, with Houston, and then the bye before going to San Fran on the West Coast, and you got to go back east and play Sunday night in front of what probably will be the biggest Bengals crowd in the regular season ever.
Right.
I would think so.
We also get the mini bye after the Baltimore game before we have to go and probably come home to play the Steelers.
Yep.
So we get the mini bye right there. So overall, I think the schedule, I think the schedule worked out well for us. There was another thing. You could check my Twitter feed on that if you want to see the full graph, but I tweeted it out. Obviously, LA Bengals fan on Twitter. But I tweeted it out. But if you go look at my Twitter feed, I did send out a chart that shows that we are traveling the least amount of miles on our schedule. So we are the least. And let me just continue so I can see this. We beat the Packers by 14 miles. We're 11,942, and the Packers were 11,956. So we beat the Packers by 14 miles. And not surprisingly, the team that's traveling the most is the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. The Seahawks are always right there because, heck, there's no team close to them geographically, so they're always traveling. And if you have the West playing the North like they are this year, that adds more travel miles. So even though we're in Santa Clara, the Niners have to travel to, I don't have their schedule in front of me, but they're going to be traveling to Pittsburgh or Baltimore. That's a lot of miles. So they're right there. Yeah, it's not a surprise. The NFC West is 3 of the top 4 longest trips. It goes Seattle, San Francisco, Miami, Rams. So
yeah, and we can talk about the quality of teams that we're playing real quick. The Bengals have a middle of the pack schedule. I mean, they play the NFC West, which has one really good team, a team I think it can be really good in Seattle, and then 2 teams that are going to be two of the 4 worst teams in the league. And then they play the AFC South, which is by far the worst division in football, maybe outside of the NFC South. But I don't know. People think Jacksonville's going to be really good. I mean, I'm not sold. I thought they overachieved a lot last year. But still, that's a bad division.
Trevor, I think, what's funny about that division? Trevor Lawrence is the most seasoned quarterback in that division. And he's look,
no team
this
made
is year 3
than the Jaguars. I mean, the Jaguars were a cash cow last year. I was on that every week. It felt like the Jaguars was as easy to me as betting Lions overs the first 8 weeks of the year. I mean, it was right. The Jaguars were a cash cow. I mean, I think of the Cowboys game, the Ravens game, the Titans game at the end of the year, the other Titans game when they beat them, and the Chargers the game.
Oh, the Charger game was the second half. The betting Jacksonville second half was a cash register.
No, the first Chargers game. I'm not even talking about the playoff game.
Oh, I'm talking about the playoff game.
No, the first Chargers game where they went to SoFi and the rails off them. Yes, then they went back home and came back down 27, 28 points in a playoff game. And
and then
3 in that game as well. The Jaguars were a cash cow last year. I don't think it was going to be like that this year. They're minus 155 to win their division. I think that's absurd. Like they should not be getting that much respect. I think we'll talk about it. I think Tennessee at plus 385 with a revamped defense is ridiculous value to win a division that looks like that. I think Indianapolis will be bad. I think Houston will show signs, but they're not really any good. I mean, those are 2 games the Bengals should win. Bengals going to Tennessee for the 3rd straight year. They're 2-0. Let's make it 3-0. And then Jacksonville on Monday night. The Bengals shouldn't lose Jacksonville. Not at home, at least.
So, yeah, no, it's they're at Jacksonville.
I guess that's on the road.
They're at Jacksonville. So overall, I think the schedule was favorable for us. So I'm looking forward to this. This is a great year. Once again, the NFL monetizing everything. It shows you that the fact that the Cowboys get so much airtime, that ultimately they care about the money more than anything else. They care about the money so much that they're willing to penalize good teams and give them 2 Thursday night games, which to me, it's like,
it's really not fair. It's
not fair, but they've had so many bad matchups on Thursday nights that they're trying to get away from that. So, they don't want to. And some of the things, they had the Rams. How many primetime games did we have the Rams in where the Rams were terrible last year? And because they were Super Bowl champs, they were, they got their 5 primetime slots. And if it's a Monday night game, you're stuck with it. You can't flex out of a Monday night. So you
Yep.
can't flex out of a Thursday night. You can move the time during the day, but you can't move the day. So that was
So the Bears play Thursday twice.
right.
Looking for other teams, I haven't seen anything, but I know the Bears play Thursday night twice.
Okay. So, well, that's kind of a wide open division now that Rodgers is gone. I mean, we've always just kind of shoot in the Packers as winning that division, and
Yeah, and
you know,
it's funny I mentioned that. Like I know that we all shit on the Cowboys and they're fun to make fun of, but to be fair, Dallas plays on Thursday. Dallas plays twice on Thursday every single year because they play.
the Thanksgiving, yeah,
Detroit would too, but they're never good.
right.
So,
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, so that's it. Please, like I said, subscribe. It's all we ask. We do these type of shows. We do previews. We do recaps. Hit the bell. Get the alerts. Jake Circus, the Jake Circus podcast. Tell them where they can find all your stuff again.
yeah, right there. Jake Circus podcast on Spotify. We're taking a little hiatus right now because of the summer, but we're gonna start NFL work. I was actually looking at some stuff this morning. Looking at Carolina. I love Carolina this year, man. They'll be a team I'll look to back early in the year, but all that stuff's gonna come on the pod July, August. Twitter at Jake Circus. All my picks are gonna be on there too. Got a good hookup, got a good spot where my content's going to be in the fall. So I'm excited to announce. I'm technically, I legally can't even officially announce it yet because I'm not 21. But once I turn 21, we'll announce it, and it's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah,
Okay.
always a pleasure being on here. And I guess the next time, what for OTAs, might be a little bit of time.
No, we're waiting for Burrow's contract. I think we'll do
Okay,
a
Burrow's
show
contract.
with
Okay,
Burrow's contract
yeah,
now. I'm out of town in the middle of June, so hopefully it happens early June or late June. But I'm out of town early June. But we'll definitely do a show. Burrow's contract, Higgins contract, whenever news hits. That's why you've got to hit the bell so you get the alerts when we throw these up. Because we're in this off season, we throw them up when there's news. So no, it should be really good. The other thing is throw down in the comments if there's a matchup that you're really looking forward to seeing. I mean, we're already talking. I'm going to be I'm trying to plan to go to the Arizona game. So that's the plan, is for all of us to meet in Arizona, obviously being here in Los Angeles. The Santa Clara game's 2 weeks later. I wish they were spread out more. So we're kind of going to see. Obviously, that's not as friendly a stadium to go to. That's the most dangerous stadium in the NFL. There's more
yeah.
stabbings and incidents in Santa Clara. People don't realize that. They automatically, whenever you ask somebody what's the most dangerous stadium in the league, you automatically say, oh, it's got to be Philadelphia, or it's got to be Washington, or one of these ones where and it's not. It's the Niners. And it's they have the same
Not a
issue in
great area.
baseball. The fans are we could get political on it, but I won't. I'm not going to talk about
Not a, it's not a great area. Yeah, I'm circling a few games. I would love to go to the Bills game. I'm not that far. I'm about 6 hours.
right.
That's kind of one that I'm circling. I think prime time in the jungle is pretty can't miss nowadays.
What
I
about
tried to go to the Bills game last year, but I was home, so it was I had to fly. But
what
yeah,
about the Chiefs? What about the Chiefs game? Or you'll be already be
I'll be
back?
there.
Okay, I was gonna say that's a
Actually,
short.
no, I probably won't because I kind of got screwed out of that one because I'm going to be probably home for the
Right.
holidays
I was going to say
and
that.
not be a 2 hour drive.
Right.
But
Right.
but
So
honestly, like at this point, until we beat them again, I don't know if I can go back to them. Sitting in the nosebleed, getting bullied for 4 hours in Arrowhead for the AFC title game, kind of like made that place a house of horrors for me.
And it wasn't because when we went to the Super Bowl, there was articles written about how nice the Bengals fans were and everything. And you make the AFC Championship game twice, and you show that you're an actual threat to their team, and all of a sudden they're not so friendly anymore. We've been getting and we signed Orlando Brown to endure ourselves even more to the
Well,
Kansas
remember they
City
don't
fan
like
base.
Orlando Brown now. Apparently now he sucks. He has
Yes,
he
yes.
didn't suck for 2 years, but now he sucks.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he's not on the Chiefs anymore, and they're offering him more money than we paid him overall in the contract. We gave him a larger signing bonus, but they actually offered him more per year, and he chose to come to us. So all that stuff doesn't sit well with the KC fan base. It's just funny how in just 2 years the dialogue has changed dramatically with the Kansas City fan base. So we'll just go from there. But so like I said, please subscribe. Put down your comments. Let us know what games you're looking forward to. If there's any games you plan on traveling to, love to see that. And with that, I'm going to say, hoot, everybody. Take care.